It's 7:32. So I'll call the meeting to order. I need to get the agenda in front of me. Actually, I was having trouble waking my computer up and got distracted by that. Give me just a Okay, Natalie, you said you're having sound difficulties. Can you hear us? But you just can't.
I'm good.
Oh, okay.
I'm good. Okay. Resolved.
All right. So we'll start with citizen comments as usual. Natalie, did we get any in advance for this meeting?
No.
Okay. So if anyone is here to speak during citizen comment, now is your time. Jarrett, did you want to go ahead?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I live over at Harvard Terrace and Ridge, and my kids and I love everything about the Ridgeville parks. But I wanted to say specifically just how thankful my son and I are that you all purchased skateboarding features for the East Court at the main Ridgeville lot this summer. We used it, I don't know how many times, and still use it to this day. We went there frequently over the summer, spent a lot of time each time we were there. We ran into friends and neighbors, met other skateboarders, young and old like me. And it's just great to have it sort of nestled in our neighborhood and in our community here. And as a homeschool dad, I am exceedingly thankful because my skateboard obsessed son basically wants gym class to be skateboarding, and we just ride our bikes right down Ridge and we skate for 45 minutes every other day. So thank you for purchasing those. I do appreciate that they're like new and solid and like not homemade things that are falling apart. Those can be really fun, but some of the ones last year were a little rough. And beyond that, I know my son says a lot how much he would love to have more features, or even a permanent park there would be incredible. But there's definitely room for more purchases if that's within the budget or within like sights of next year. We would greatly appreciate it. And I think it would draw even more people too within the neighborhood. And that's it.
Awesome. Thanks so much for coming to share that with us.
Sure.
We're not allowed to engage further in citizen comment, just so you know. So that's the main reason that nobody's kind of jumping in with more specifics, but we could definitely follow up and talk later.
Oh yeah, I figured. Thanks.
Thanks, Sharon.
All right, is anyone else here to speak during citizens comment? You can digitally raise hand, you can turn your camera on, you can just start talking. I don't always know who's waiting. You can also put your name in the chat, but it doesn't seem like we have anyone else at the moment. So moving on to approval of minutes from the September 9th, 2021 meeting. I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Mitchell moves to approve the minutes.
Great, and is there a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Matt. Number two. Any discussion on these questions?
Just one quick thing. In the very beginning, motion number 1, I didn't move to suspend Robert's rules. That's not a Robert's rules thing. That is our rules for conducting meetings.
Okay. Thank you. And when you say our rules, how would you like Julie to change?
I would just say to move to suspend the rules.
Okay.
But it's not a Robert's rules thing.
Okay. Yeah, I'm fine with that change as well. I don't know that it's the Ridgeville Park District's rules. I think it's actually, I think it might be a state rule.
It's the Open Meetings Act. It's the state of Illinois.
Yeah, okay.
Which motion were you looking at, Matt? To change?
Motion number 1.
Okay,
So it says Matt Rogers moved to suspend Robert's rules, and it's just, you can just say the rules.
okay.
Thanks, Matt, for catching that, and thanks, Julie, for the change.
Sure.
Any other
just-
notes?
Should I change that going forward with, because I feel like, I didn't look at the minutes, but was that sort of phrasing mentioned a lot?
You
No,
know, I'm pretty sure that when we move
Okay.
something up the agenda, that is a Robert's rules change. Am I correct in that? You guys
yes.
know? Okay, so that's what
Okay.
we've done a lot recently, Julie, and that might
Right.
be why we've noted it as such. So it's just and Matt, where did we land last time on whether we're gonna make this suspension of the Open Meetings Act rule to meet virtually? Are we doing that every month or?
My personal feeling is that it should be done at every meeting, but I know council has a different opinion of that, but I'll follow whatever everyone else feels comfortable with. But technically, in my opinion, it's a suspension of the rules each time, because each time the rule comes back into play once we adjourn.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely fine with adding that to our agenda so that we just have that reminder that it's something that we do every time. You know, is that how you'd like to see it, Matt, that it's actually on the agenda? And if so, exactly where would you like it?
So basically, that usually comes after the call to order. Before citizen comment would be the ideal place. So once the meeting is called to order, then we suspend the rules to meet virtually. And then we move on with the rest of our business.
Okay. Natalie, is that okay with you that moving forward, we'll have number 2 of our agenda be that we're suspending the rules in order to meet virtually? It's noted at the beginning of every agenda that has accompanied a digital meeting, but not perhaps in the way that Matt is referencing it. You know, we're talking about the governor's blah, 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 impractical and prudent to meet in person, blah, blah, blah. So if we want to have it more formally, you know, a motion, is that what you wanted, Matt? A motion?
Yeah, I mean, it needs to be an active suspension. Just a note at the top doesn't really
Right.
clarify that. I mean, it clarifies it for people who go, why are you not meeting in person? But it doesn't necessarily legitimize the act itself.
Okay.
Is
Yeah,
there
I think-
specific verbiage you want for that or just?
You just put
motion?
suspend the rules to meet remotely.
Do I need to put for action before that? Because it'll be a vote, right?
It is a vote. I don't know that you need to literally put for action before it, because just like any other suspension of the rules, it's not really an action in and of itself.
Okay. Got it.
Okay. Thank you, Matt and Natalie. So unless there's any other questions, issues with the minutes from September 9th. Seeing that there are none, we can have Julie roll call the vote of the approval of those minutes.
Braun? Debbie Braun, you're muted still. Debbie Braun?
Yes.
Thank you. Mitchell?
Yes.
Morel? Oh, is he not here, Mick?
Yeah, sorry, Julie, he is not
Okay,
here.
Got
And in
it.
fact, that reminds me, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Julie, but
Yeah.
Matt Rogers is taking attendance at every meeting something that you view to be a proper part of either meeting period or meeting virtually specifically?
I mean, that's up to you. It really is. You can either just declare a quorum of people are present, or you can call the roll, either way.
Okay. So Julie, moving forward, you know, since we all have our cameras on normally and we're just a 5-person board, I don't know that we need to have a roll call attendance. But if you want to, and you're already noting who's present, that's already part of the
Yeah.
minutes, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But if we, yeah, so I don't think we necessarily need to change that. But yes, tonight Mick is not able to join us. So
Sorry.
I'm sorry again to interrupt you. You can go ahead with the vote.
No problem. Rogers
Yes.
and Gaines.
Yes. Great. Moving on to approval of the bills, and I'll turn it over to Brian for that.
Okay, thank you. I'll go through the unusuals. The first one is Best Buy. We bought 2 computers via the budget, 2 Apple computers which we will pick up when we deliver the check. As we go down further, Dan DiLorenzo is a reissued payroll check that he did not cash. Emergency road service, we needed towing twice. You'll see, well, in the bills, there's next month, you'll see the repairs. One was for the F-350 and one was for the F-150. As we go further down, K Park Recreation is a delivery charge for the equipment we ordered and received. We paid for it in the last budget. It was picnic tables and a variety of benches. Julie Lewis is a minute taker for the new minute taker for the Equity Committee. So that's 2 times $50. Jan Matson's a refund. Quill Corporation, office supplies. Russo Power Equipment, just some maintenance gloves for the crew. Karen Sadler, refund for imaginary games. Psychage is a little bit more than 50% of the audit balance due. Sunrise Tree, you'll see it in my report. If you haven't already, it's for 3 pretty big jobs that were necessary and a $25 payment that we underpaid them in a previous month. That's it in a nutshell.
I have a couple quick questions. I want to make sure my sound was on. What do we do with our old computers? So if we're getting new computers, what do we do with the old?
We take out the memory and we recycle them.
Okay. And in terms of emergency road service, is this something that happens fairly regularly?
No.
Or-
once, twice a year if truck breaks down. The F-350 brakes went out and the F-150, actually the F-350 was towed twice. I had a brake issue. We took it to Nick and Ernie's and it was going to sit there for several days. They said they don't want to keep it here. So we had to bring it back and then retow it.
The only reason I was asking is because, and I don't know if we could even do this, but is there some sort of like a AAA or something that it would be a lot cheaper than paying $220 plus more to come for towing?
Yeah, there's no more to come unless there's a problem with a vehicle, but I can look into that and see, but basically once or twice a year we tow a vehicle.
Right, and I mean, so is this for 1 tow or 2 tows?
That's 2 tows.
So it's 110 per tow roughly?
Yeah.
So I mean, I think it would be worth looking into like a AAA and seeing what a membership costs, because I think it's like $75 or something. And you get free towing within 5 miles, I believe, or something like that, but it's worth looking into.
Okay.
That's it for my question. Oh no, I'm sorry. I have one other quick question. On the building maintenance and repair list for Home Depot, could we just get sort of a brief little description after each one of those instead of just invoice numbers? So we kind of know.
Sure. So Jung in the bills will just add like what it's for.
Yeah, just like a quick, like, even if it's just like supplies or grass seed, I mean, whatever it is, just so we kind of have an idea. Rather than just listing, because kind of up above, like for office and supplies, we have different things listed where it's like invoice soap and paper towels.
Right.
I think that would be helpful, especially if we get a larger item in there.
Right. Okay, we can do that.
Yeah, and Brian, in order to avoid like extra work, in order to do that accounting, if you all want to photocopy the receipt, if the receipt has enough detail that it would like allow you in the moment of the meeting to be able to tell us what each of those charges are, that's one way to do it, just so it's not like an additional list being made. Not all receipts have a lot of detail, so I don't know if that will work.
Right.
Any other questions from anybody? Alrighty, seeing that there are none, guess we should have had a motion to approve the bill, so we can do that now.
Okay, Braun, I'll make a motion to approve the bills.
Thanks, Debbie. And a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Matt Rogers. And Julie, if you could roll call us, that would be great.
Ron,
Yes,
Mitchell? Sorry, Matthew Mitchell, you're muted still.
Sorry. Yes.
Rogers
Yes.
and Gaines.
Yes, thanks, Julie.
Mhm.
Moving on to approval of petty cash expenditures. And yeah, Brian, we usually like hear from you first. Should we be making a motion first and then having you speak? Do you remember how it was done before I was president? I don't know if like having you tell us
I'll
about
go
it
through the
counts as
bills, and you
discussion.
make a motion to approve, then you discuss. If there's
Right,
a-
and does hearing from you about the petty cash, does that count as discussion? Is that what we're,
I think the discussion is any questions from the board, basically.
okay, I might look into that so I know what's correct moving forward, but for tonight, let's do it how we always do, which is we'll just have you tell us about it. Thank you.
Okay, so Amazon.com is rodent repellent and some security monitor parts for our in-house 908 Seward security cameras. Apple is iPad memory. Brian Resendez is Bike the Ridge Performance. Dengio's is the auditor's lunch on 9/16. MailChimp emails over 2,000. Sam's Club snacks and stuff for staff lunches that we eat indoors at Ridgeville. Maggie Weber will be for the Fall Frenzy Performance on 10/19. Windy City Gardeners Mums for the building decorations. Zoom annual fee. We're going to, instead of paying monthly now, we just paid annually. You won't see a bill for 12 months. That's it.
Okay, I've got a, well, all right, let's have a motion to approve the bills for October, or I'm sorry, petty cash for October.
Mitchell
This is
moves to approve the petty cash from October in the amount of $1,017.67.
And I'll second for Rogers.
Great, I have a question for Brian. The Amazon charges, all three of them, security monitors, parts, rodent repellent, marking flags.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. What's that?
Well, for all three of those Amazon line items, they're listed on here twice. They're listed 3 times in petty cash, and then they're also listed down below, building maintenance and repair, playground maintenance. Is that just noting them more specifically to the category?
Yeah, they're being 2 different line items.
Okay, so petty
Well,
cash at the top is,
If I could, in both this report and the general bills report, at the top, what you have is a section that itemizes the charges by payee. And think of that as like the list of the debits. The offsetting credits, or the other side to the transaction, is the classification by expense category. So that's why you'll see it twice. You'll see it once on the one side where it's the payee, and then on the other side of the transaction where it's the expense category.
So that's how we end up with a zero balance at the bottom of the page.
Correct, correct. And that's just the way your system works for generating the report.
okay, it's kind of like the detail of each is being subtracted from that total, and so that's how you get back to 0 at the end?
Well, like, yeah, at the top where you have the 1,017 and change,
Right.
if you add up the categories, they all equal 1,017.
Okay, I knew our extra pages were expanded detail of everything. I didn't realize that the first chunk is like a reiteration of of the stuff on the first page for both bills and petty cash. So
Yeah. I mean, in a way, the summary page that just lists the payees and dollar amounts
the first page
is a bit redundant. The one thing that it does do is it combines multiple entries for the same payee into a single total. So you see Amazon as $199.22 on the summary page, but on the detail page, you'll see we actually paid them in 3 separate payments.
Okay, totally makes sense. And then below the detail of, for instance, Amazon on the next page where it goes 1, 2, 3, then we're seeing them accounted for which categories of the budget they came out of.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, great. Any other questions, comments about petty cash? Alrighty, seeing that there are none, we can move to the roll call vote, please, Julie.
Ron,
Yes.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Rogers,
Yes.
and Gaines.
Yes. All right, moving on to monthly reports, and we'll turn it over to Brian's first.
Okay, in the past month, we have worked with the auditors from Sykage. We met with them here on September 16th, 2021. As of now, the auditors have what they need from Ridgeville. We do expect that might change slightly as their work goes on. It is our hope to have the audit by November board meeting. Keep your fingers crossed. A special thanks to Treasurer Gibbs, Natalie Salee, Jung Hauer, who all pitched in with the auditor's request. Treasurer Gibbs spent the entire day here on September 16th. I know he loves us, but it's a little great job by Jerry. We had an emergency tree trimming job here at 908 Seward that Sunrise Tree took care of. A large branch from a tree just east of the main building cracked and was laying on the electrical feed to 908 Seward. Sunrise removed that branch and pruned that tree and 2 other trees that were growing around the electrical service. Thankfully, we avoided electrical disruption to the community house. Sunrise Tree spent most of the day here making sure that we were taken care of. We also had necessary branches removed at Cayman East Park above a play circuit. They started laying very, very low, getting heavy for the tree that was carrying them. And Hull Terrace, we took out some thorny dead branches on some smaller trees near the play circuit. Soccer games at Cayman East, West, and Leiter Parks are ongoing through November 7th, 2021. Each Sunday, AYSAO rents those fields and uses them from noon to 6. It's quite busy site when soccer is in progress. If you get a chance, drive by. It's wonderful, beautiful activity for those 3 parks. Bike the Ridge was a huge success on Sunday, 9/26/21. Several vendors, Evanston School of Rock, and thousands of bikers participated. Thanks to all who helped with the event on Ridgeville's end, especially Mike Miro, Natalie Salee, Ruben Sierra, and Marcos Cruz. Numerous other volunteers helped also. Due to supply chain delays, we are waiting for several pieces of equipment that we ordered months ago, and by the way, paid for. They include 4 mud tables, concert sound equipment, and Reba Play Circuit. Currently, the Play Circuit is due the week of November 8th, 2021. There's no guarantee we'll see the equipment then, but we certainly hope so. The delay in Play Circuit actually affects other smaller projects, such as planning the front of Reba Park, sidewalk entry work, and replacement of the drinking fountain. All these smaller projects must wait until the Play Circuit is installed because we need the front of the park to enter with trucks and equipment for the Play Circuit installation. This involves moving some of the fence fabric for entry. If the Play Circuit is delayed longer than 11/8/21, we will probably have to delay the installation and the other projects until the spring of 22. These delays are not uncommon for many businesses and projects, especially due to the supply chain delays and employee shortage. So we're kind of on hold on our next biggest project. That's it.
Thanks, Brian. Anybody have any questions? Comments? I just want to say Bike the Ridge was super fun as always. And I'm really glad to see that even with a new city council, and so there might, be some changes in how people on the council view events like that. I just heard it through the grapevine that people were worried it might not go on as it has in the past, and it was great as always. It was really fun, great weather. We loved it. All right, thanks again, Brian. And those delays are a bummer, but I'm excited about the spring. We might be very busy in the spring doing that stuff and a lot of other stuff. All right, moving on to Jerry's report.
I don't have much of a report this month. Until we get a draft of the audit, I can't really open up the books for the new year. But the one thing I do want to highlight is I've had concern the last couple months because we've been very tight on cash for daily operations. With the October 1st tax payment deadline, we have received substantial tax revenue in late September and early October, such that our Chase banking relationship now has about $365,000 in it. And that should carry us for several months now because we won't see tax revenues of any significant amount until the March installment of Cook County property taxes. Right now, our bank balances at Chase are above the FDIC limit. That's okay with that particular relationship because we do have a collateral agreement by which they're keeping collateral at the Federal Reserve for any amount exceeding the FDIC limit as is required by the state public fund laws. So we're good to go. That's it.
Thank you, Jerry. That was indeed short.
I have one quick question, because the FDIC thing, so basically that's just, they hold extra money in reserve for our public funds above and beyond the, let's say it's 250,000 that's FDIC insured and we're at 365. So those are guaranteed through a different type of fund, or how does that work?
They actually purchase monies at the Federal Reserve and hold it on our behalf.
All right. That's kind of what I was thinking, but I wanted to make sure. Thanks.
Any other questions for Jerry from anybody? All righty, moving on then to Natalie's monthly report.
Yes, hi. Okay, Studio 908. Classes are continuing to do well. We have nearly full youth programs and partnership programs this fall. The adult programs are also doing well, but with slightly lower attendance. I'm offering prorated fees to any latecomers that wish to join the classes in session. And I have people joining every day, so it's good, all good news. Half-day workshops began on October 6th, and we had a sold-out workshop. J.C. Herman offered a maker's workshop, and it was a huge success. We're also sold out for November as well, and very quickly filling up for December and for the rest of the school year. Gardens, Catherine Egan is working with volunteers on fall harvesting at Elks Garden. They're also planting end-of-season plants at our other parks. Abby Schumacher is wrapping up another successful season of Garden to Table. Thanks to both of them for doing such a beautiful job this season and making our parks beautiful. Cayman Park After School, Shannon Watson from the city of Evanston began the Cayman Park After School program mid-September. The field house looks excellent. She reports that there's a consistent group of kids that are coming every day. She'll keep me posted on attendance throughout the session. The program runs through mid-May. Bike the Ridge, the annual event was held on September 26th. It was a beautiful day. We had a great turnout. It was nice to see you guys there. School of Rock played. There were multiple food vendors and info booths. Big thank you to Mike Miro. He did a great job this year. Ruben and Marcos and everybody else who worked really hard to make it another successful event. Fall Frenzy is scheduled for Tuesday, October 19th at Ridgeville Park. The band Where's Maggie will play again this year. J.C. Herman is doing an arts and crafts table for families. We're going to have pumpkin painting and a candy scavenger hunt that incorporates all the beautiful new benches and the mural. at Ridgeville. I could use a couple more volunteers to help pass out candy and supervise the pumpkin painting. So if you're available and you want to come by, I would be happy to have you. Spring, summer 2022. I'm beginning to plan programming for spring and summer of next year. COVID-19 continues to make this challenging, but some of the adjustments that we made this past year worked out very well. So I plan to use a similar model for planning events and camps this coming year. Earth Day event, for example, is one, the camp lottery, extended summer concerts, etc. I'll keep the board posted as I make decisions and put together brochure content. And that's it.
Thank you, Natalie.
Yep.
Any questions, comments for Natalie? I don't think so. All right. Thanks again. All righty. Moving on to the monthly report from the Racial Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee. Is Tracy here? There she is. Sorry, I had to switch my screen.
No worries. Hi there. I would like to start off by welcoming Julie Lewis. She is our new secretary and minute taker. I am particularly excited to have her join us, alleviate some of my responsibilities that I've been doing. So welcome to her. And then the committee was also, we were hoping to ask the board we were going to recommend hiring Dr. Logan as our consultant. Unfortunately, Dr. Logan was not able to make it to tonight's meeting. I was able to confirm his attendance at the November 11th meeting. So we will be tabling that item until that time when he can be present and answer any questions you all have. And that's all I have for this month. Yes, Natalie.
Let me ask a question. Because Dr. Logan is coming to the next meeting, and I know normally we will vote, the board will vote to move somebody up if there's a guest coming to speak. Can I just make the agenda reflect that, or do we need to go through that whole process of voting to move him up?
That's a good question, but I would say that another question we should ask is whether Dr. Logan prefers to go right at the beginning or whether it might work better for him to go later.
He does.
Oh, he does.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
A complicating factor might also be that we have the auditors. We don't know yet, but if the auditors are ready, and they'll be wanting to make their presentation at the meeting as well.
So then for both, I guess for any special guest, can I just reflect that at the top of the meeting, or do we need to go through that vote to move them up process?
I would think it depends on what the basis is for the order of our agenda to begin with. I mean, is it kind of up to us and we just have the structure the way it is because we've always done it that way? Or is there more of a reason to obviously citizen comments is going to happen first, but we always start with approval of minutes and then approval of bills and then approval of petty cash. I know in the past we've talked about, those are the things that have to get done. So in a sense, if they're the highest priority, maybe that's why they're first on the agenda. But if we know that nobody has to leave the meeting early, for instance, as we've done in the past, we can move things up. So as to whether we can do it in advance, I don't know. Brian, Charlie, do you guys have any opinion on that?
In the past, we've moved them up. For the life of me, I can't remember if it was immediately after citizen comments or after petty cash and before board reports.
Well, I think Natalie wanted to know if she could actually make the agenda reflecting moving them up instead of us having to vote on it in the moment of the meeting itself.
Yeah, I don't think there's any law on how the agenda, what's in the agenda, what order. There's certain things you have to do first. For example, call to order. If we're going to do a roll call, that would be first, and you would have to do citizen comments. So then it's a question of who sets the agenda. And I think as long as I've been involved, the board has just had a set agenda and worked off that agenda every time. But I don't think I'll look, but I don't think there's any reason why whoever sets the agenda can't present those items earlier.
Okay.
And we could set those up as like a special agenda item. So it doesn't necessarily fall under new business or old business. But
Let-
city
let-
council has the practice of setting things up as a special order of business before everything else happens.
Okay.
Let me suggest that we have a motion that the president of the board can reorder the agenda in the event there's going to be outside speakers to move it up in her discretion. And then it shouldn't be a problem. Or alternatively, we can just leave the agenda as it is and just vote on it at the meeting.
That's totally fine. I just wanted to,
I just think it makes it easier if people know, if people want to come for something
At a
and we
certain
move it
time.
up, that we don't have people miss something. So if somebody wants to come for something that's scheduled for later and they miss the first 15 minutes, I don't want them to miss something. So I would like for the agenda to most likely reflect what's going to happen. There's always the ability to move things around. But I'm fine with making a motion that the president of the board and staff can order the agenda if there are special items with guest speakers coming to be moved toward the top of the agenda.
I mean, it's really how you guys want to do it, but it might just be simpler to say that the staff, the secretary will present an agenda to the president and the president will approve that agenda. And that'll be the policy for what we have going forward. That
Yeah, I
just
mean,
seems like the
that's
simplest
basically
way.
what my motion was.
Yeah,
So-
and Matt, you're making a great point that the public, I mean, the agenda is not just for us, it's for the public to know what to expect at the meeting. And so any time that we know in advance that we're going to be making a change, it makes sense to do it before the agenda is finalized, as opposed to in the moment, because then people are right off the bat, not in line with what we plan to do. So,
Right.
I mean, and I also like the idea of, if we want it to be separate from new business and old business, which traditionally fall towards the end of the agenda, we could have a thing pop up on the agenda as needed called special item or special, business. And then it's sort of like inherent to special business that we can put it in the agenda where we want to. And especially if it's involving somebody else's time, it usually makes sense to do it first as opposed to making them wait late. Natalie, were you going to say something?
no, I think that all sounds great. So I think that's perfect. And that'll take care of that. So are you going to,
So I'll basically reiterate my motion.
okay.
That is, that if we have, I move that if we have special guests or special items of discussion of great import, that the corporate secretary and the president may at their discretion move things toward the top of the agenda.
Yeah,
This is Martha,
I would say
and
we'll
I'll
just
second.
change the word things to special items, I think. Would be
Special
better.
items.
Yeah, that's how I heard you say it. So I'm sure that's how it was written down.
Okay, and this is Martha. I'll second that motion. Any other discussion from anybody on that? Okay, and then Julie, I think we'll need you to roll call the vote on that motion, please.
Sure. Braun,
Yes.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Rogers,
Yes.
and Gaines.
Yes. Okay, thank you, Natalie, for raising that. That's a great, I like that moving forward. And thank you, JC, for the update from the Ready Committee. Moving right along to old business. We've got this lingering one from me, discuss the procedure for board communication outside of meetings. Natalie, is that why there's a sheet?
Can I interrupt, Martha? This for action regarding hiring an equity consultant is listed on the agenda under the Ready Committee.
Yeah, I think JC had said we're tabling that because Dr. Logan was not able to come tonight.
Okay.
Is
It
that-
already is on the table, so we're just not taking it off the table. It was tabled at the last meeting.
Sure, but it's on the agenda. All right. If y'all are comfortable with that, I'm fine.
Okay, so Natalie, I was curious if the corporate secretary job description sheet, is that in here because of my agenda item?
Yes.
Okay. So I don't feel that I need to say anything additional. I think this is really helpful for the board to have this sheet. and I think it speaks for itself. If people haven't had a chance to take a look at it and want to do so and then talk about it later as needed, I think that's fine. Just my original agenda item was simply to make sure that all new board members understood, as I've said for this one previously, that we can't reply all when the whole board is sent an email from Natalie or Brian or anyone. Can't talk to more than one other board member at a time, and that if communication that you want to make to the whole rest of the board needs to be done outside of meetings, that it would go through the corporate secretary or Brian. Is that correct, guys? Am I saying that correctly? Brian and Natalie?
Yes, I think you should note that in our ordinance, it's basically spelled out in the Ridgeville's general ordinance. We also looked at a few other park district requirements, and I don't know if there's much of a combination, but there's a few minor changes. I think this describes the corporate secretary's duties thoroughly, and I think moving forward, everybody will have a good idea of who to call, when to call, and why to call from a board member standpoint.
Great, thank you for that. And so Natalie, we can definitely just take that off the agenda moving forward.
Got it.
And so then we still have the next order of business is from Rogers, discuss creating committees. Matt, is there additional or new discussion you want to talk about with that one tonight?
Nothing for tonight. I'll hopefully have something put together for the next meeting.
Okay, great. Moving on then to new business. First item there is appoint a liaison to the Evanston Joint Board of Review for any TIFs that are within the Ridgeville Taxing District. And this is from Rogers, and this is new. So I'll give the floor to you, Matt. Rogers.
Sure. So as one of Evanston's taxing bodies, we have a seat at the Evanston Joint Board of Review, which basically supervises, oversees, discusses all TIFs. And we have a seat at any TIFs that are within our district. Obviously, if there's something happening in another part of Evanston that Ridgeville doesn't touch, we aren't a part of that discussion. But it would be nice to have sort of someone that we know is going to be there. I know Brian and I had a discussion, and he has attended these in the past. Natalie has attended some. Brian is ecstatic if somebody else will take it over. So he doesn't have that commitment. And so it's just something that came to my attention, sort of, that we hadn't had not that everybody's there every time, but we hadn't been at a couple recently. And so I think it would be nice for us to be there and to have interaction with the other taxing bodies, places like Cook County Economic Development, which has money at their disposal that maybe we can tap into at some point in the future. It's also the city's economic development people, as well as the school districts and everybody else. I think it goes to help foster some relationship building there with other governmental and like entities in the city.
Can I add to that real quick? In the past, when I first came aboard, a board member would attend this meeting, this annual meeting. Then it got turned over to me. I attended 20 plus meetings over 20 plus years. A few things to note. The meeting generally happens the second week of December, generally, give or take a week. If it falls in the second week of December, it's a board meeting week. If we happen to have a payroll that week, it's really difficult for staff to get everything done, payroll included, attend this meeting. And quite honestly, I personally don't understand the meeting in its entirety. It's pretty complicated stuff for me or Natalie. So I would recommend the board appoint a board member to go if somebody so desires. And I think Matt Rogers so desires. It would help office staff, and it would help you with a annual report from Matt after that meeting.
Matt Rogers, are you comfortable with everything that Brian just said?
Yeah, I mean, I think Matt Mitchell was trying to speak but wasn't unmuted yet. I saw his mouth moving and I saw him now unmute. So I'll let him go ahead and speak before.
So is this something you're interested in doing, Matt?
It's something, yeah, I'm interested in doing. I have sat in on these meetings before. When Alderman Rainey was unable to attend, I was kind of like a little note taker for her, just to kind of say, this is what we discussed about the TIFs down in the 8th Ward. So I'm happy to do it.
Just to be clear, Brian, is this a formal appointment or it's informal?
Informal.
Okay.
Do we
Sounds
have to
good.
make a
And then
motion?
Brian, do you get notified?
Yes.
Okay. So you want to just forward that invitation to Mr. Rogers, and then Matt, do you want to report back after?
So I'll report back after. I can go ahead and reach out to, I'll confirm, but I believe that Paul Zalmazak, who's the Economic Development Director for the city of Evanston, kind of coordinates these meetings and helps run them, but I'll confirm with him, but I'll find out how to get my name on the list as the official representative. I would like it to be sort of a more formal thing where, like, we say we're nominating me, appointing me. So it's just like I have the authority of the board in that meeting.
Is that something you want us to do now in the form of making a motion and voting on that? Or is that something you see being a future step?
I was gonna make a motion. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. I'd like to make a motion to appoint Matt Rogers as the TIF person. Well, I mean,
So
I'm sorry, guys, but you know what I'm saying.
before we do that, was anybody previously appointed or it just came to you, Brian, because you were the executive director or whatever your exact title is?
It was never formally an appointment.
Okay.
The thing is that this position does have a vote on this board. So it would be a representative of the Park District role. So I would feel more comfortable with it being sort of an official appointment as opposed to a casual, yes, you can attend meetings.
I agree, Matt. Can we also maybe just redo this every year? Can we appoint?
Yeah, I think we're going to have to do that. If you're going to make it a formal appointment, you're going to need to set it for a certain amount of time and it's going to need to be renewed as used.
Okay, so Debbie has officially made that motion to appoint him?
Sure. And then, so I guess, Debbie, would you be open to amending that motion to have a 1 year?
Why don't we do it so it expires December 31, 2022? And then the following year, we'll just, in January, we'll have to do it again. That's all.
Is that
Yeah.
okay?
That works for me.
All right, that's my motion.
Okay, Julie, are
That's
you
what I
clear?
heard you say.
Julie, are you clear on the wording of Debbie's motion?
I said Braun moved to appoint Matt Rogers as a liaison to the Evanston Joint Board of Review expiring December 31, 2022.
Yeah, I
Right.
think that's right.
Okay.
Okay, and did someone second yet?
Mitchell seconds.
Great, and is there any additional discussion, questions from anybody before we vote? Alrighty, I just want to say thank you, Matt, for bringing this up. Thank you for being willing to take this on. And we can go ahead and let Julie roll call the vote.
Braun,
Yes.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Rogers,
Yes.
and Gaines.
Yes.
Okay.
Alrighty, so the next order of business under new business is discuss and approve line item adjustment, and this is from Brian. So I'll turn it over to him first.
Yes, so after the budget was passed, there was a discussion of, we removed the marketing coordinator out of R31, and then there was a discussion with staff to bring back an outreach advisor. So this is how we would plan to do it, where we would put the outreach advisor back into R31 at a $5,000 wage, and then remove in the above categories, alley tot lot sign, farmer's market sign / banners, Halloween wages, because Halloween is now fall frenzy, egg hunt wages, that's going to be Earth Day, farmer's market wages, we don't need, and bridge camp wages will not happen due to special camps after Ridgeville camps are over. Partner camps. So that's how we would do it. I don't know if you even need to make a motion. You just kind of maybe approve a consensus that this is okay.
I have just a quick question. So what is kind of the defined role of the outreach advisor?
They will take follow a yet to be devised job description and take order from Natalie and myself on what to do and where to do it, and it'll come through the equity committee also.
So who are they outreaching to? I guess is kind of, I just want to, what is the role? I don't necessarily need their specific duties, but like, what is the goal of the role?
Do you want me to talk about that, Brian?
Go ahead.
So as we were interviewing consultants within the Ready Committee, something that was big on our high up on the list of priorities was outreach. And that's been something that's come up a lot over the past few years is outreach. My question is always, what does that mean? What does outreach mean? Who are we reaching out to? Exactly the questions that you're asking. So as we were interviewing these consultants, one of them had a lot of experience in outreach and lives in the district. And the committee was all really excited about her. And so we talked to her privately about, rather than, the consultant position, is there a world where we could bring her on board as an outreach advisor and really work one-on-one with me, and not really with the committee so much, but just with me, to talk to me about what the answer to those questions are, Matt. Like, what is outreach? How do we reach more people? Here's what we're doing already with marketing and promotion, social media, website, brochures, whatever, the partnerships that we have in the community. What more is there, and how do we reach these different pockets of our community that I haven't been able to reach yet? So that's essentially what she's going to be doing. And she and I still have to further develop what that means. She knows that we had to move some money around in the budget, so I wasn't ready to quite get to that with her in terms of like describing what her position is. But really, she's going to serve as an advisor to me. That's why we put it in there as outreach advisor, to help me learn more and then share with the board and the rest of the staff, so that we can all be on the same page and do it together, like how to reach different people in our community that we maybe haven't yet. Does that make sense?
It does, although a number of the things that you sort of described are kind of marketing. The social media.
Well, and the reason that it's not marketing, last year we did budget for a position that was supposed to be a marketing and outreach assistant. One of the things I learned in that is that I don't really need somebody to like write posts for me. I don't really need somebody to like take over creating the emails or creating the Facebook posts or all of that stuff. I just need help with content. So rather than like that marketing, I guess when I think about marketing, I'm thinking about like hands-on developing that kind of doing the post, kind of taking over our account and and running with it. Really, I need more just like somebody in an advisory position to kind of teach me things that I don't know yet, that has a hand in the district already, that might be able to connect me with specifically, some of the community members that we don't know.
Because to me, that's outreach, is getting you in front of or making contact with the people in the communities that we want to try to reach.
Yes.
And are we looking at this kind of as a one and done sort of thing? So this is like this year, we aren't planning on marketing, or we aren't planning on budgeting for this each year. It's kind of like if we want to talk about it, a training, an on the job training lesson for you on how to get in front of these people and making some of those contacts for you, between you and those communities.
I mean, I guess we'll see. I guess that's kind of how I'm looking at it, as it's kind of a crash course training for me. She's going to help me find the connections that I need to find and teach me the things that I don't know. But she's also, she's a constituent. She's a really valued member of our community with a lot of skill and experience. So I don't know. I mean, maybe the position evolves into something else, but I was really interested, rather than, putting her on payroll and hiring her as like an outreach assistant, really bringing her in on a contract basis as an advisor. So, it's similar to how we manage the equity consultant position in terms of contracting, is what I'm hoping to put together with her. But, at the end of this fiscal year, everybody might be like, she's great, bring her back. I don't know. But for right now, it would just be through the end of this fiscal year.
Okay, thank you.
I think those are great questions. And I've learned a lot by listening to the question and the answer, because I was not aware that this was just going to sort of be defaulting to a one and done position as opposed to ongoing. But I think it makes perfect sense, Natalie, your answer of we're going to see, you know what I mean? The details are still being fleshed out of what she's even doing and why and what that's going to help us achieve and all of that. And, you mentioned the equity consultant. We are now moving into we're in our third year of having an equity consultant hired by us. And, we don't necessarily see an end in sight for that immediately. So I think it's a great question, but I also think the answer is great, that we kind of like get going with it and see where it goes. I think also, as we've seen in the past, sometimes the people who fill these positions, maybe it's not a great fit, and then that kind of goes in a certain direction. Whereas other times, people who fill these positions for us do an excellent job and help us define who we are and what we're doing, and we keep moving forward with those people. So
that's another important point for why I wanted to make this a contract position.
I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah, Debbie.
Have you already hired this person or decided on this person, or?
We've interviewed this person. We interviewed her for the consultancy, and then I've had separate conversations with her about coming on board for this piece of it.
Okay. Personally, I feel very strongly that before you ask her to come on board, that we get to meet her and ask her questions. I'm just really still a little, I'm still gun shy about the last guy that was hired for this. And I want to make sure that I personally would like to meet him at a meeting, her, whoever it is.
Sure.
And ask her questions before she's hired. Is that okay? I mean, how do other people feel about that?
I mean, I think that we need to go back a step if we're going to move forward with that request, because Natalie and Brian maybe should weigh in on the fact that currently our practice is that hiring and firing and similar procedures, those are handled by Natalie and Brian. I think it's come up in the past, in fact, the recent past, and we've reiterated that we trust them to do those things, that those are, very clear parts of their jobs, not necessarily us as a board.
I'm not saying that we as a board should vote on this person being hired or not hired. I'm just saying that I'd like to know who this person is, see some credentials. Have you talked to anybody she's worked for? All the mistakes that we kind of made last time, I'm trying not to make this time.
That makes
Debbie-
perfect sense, Debbie,
Debbie,
but I would wonder where we're drawing the line then specifically.
Wait, I was asking, just let Natalie answer that 1 second and then,
I just wanted to say, you do have her credentials. They're in the packet with the Ready consultant, all that stuff that we sent you, because she was someone that we interviewed. Her name is Tracy. So her bio and resume is in there. And then, you know, depending on what is decided tonight, I'd be happy to even just connect you personally with her.
Debbie, I'd lean towards you informally checking in with Natalie about this as opposed to making it an issue of who gets hired.
yeah, no, I wasn't doing that at all. I just want to know who we're talking about before all of a sudden there's this person there. I totally trust you. I just, you know,
And, you know, for what it's worth, you know, that is also, again, part of why this is being modified from what the position was last year in the budget. I mean, that hire did not work out. That was not a successful hire. And I think, you know, I certainly learned things from that experience. I think that we all learned things from that experience.
absolutely.
But this person, this individual, we interviewed her for the consultancy, and it seemed very, very clear from those interviews, which you can also watch. You
Yeah,
also have the links to
I'm
those
happy
if you
to
want to watch them.
I'm
Just so
happy
you,
to
if you
contact-
want to see her rather than, like, you know,
Sure.
me connecting you for a phone call or something.
I agree with Matt. I'm happy to contact you personally and talk
Okay.
about this. I don't think we need to take up any more in the meeting. Sorry.
It's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I like Matt Mitchell's idea as well, because I think if we are, and perhaps we just aren't. So if we aren't, then we aren't, and we'll move on. But if we are starting to talk about which hires the board wants a hand in and which hires we leave to Brian and Natalie, that is something we need to discuss, get clear on, and move forward. Because right now we are leaving that up to them. We're trusting them. Things are not always perfect. That doesn't mean something was necessarily done wrong. If people want to change that, we can talk about it. But I don't think it makes sense to just, you know, piecemeal suddenly
really-
say, I want to be a part of that hiring
I wanna
process.
really say that I think we can move on.
I just want to say one thing before we move on, is I think it would help to have some clear guidance as to that, because we are involved in hiring the equity coordinator. When I worked on the website, that was something the board was involved with. So I just think having some sort of a clear guidance, and I don't know if it's based on dollar amount or time or whatever it is, but as long as there's something so we can point to it and say, okay, this falls within this category or this falls within this category. I think it's real simple just to put something quick and simple together. It doesn't have to be detailed.
Yeah.
Right. Historically, Brian, is it a dollar amount? I mean, why have we involved the board for equity consultant, et cetera, and not for other positions?
If you remember correctly, the equity consultant was a new position and obviously something that was at the board level immediately due to another commissioner and complaints through that commissioner and video and things of that nature. So it went right to the board level quickly. Everything else has been board's policy and procedure. This was a new position, a contract employee developed by the board. So everything else in terms of employees is out of your realm. It's our job to interview folks, do background checks, and make decisions on who's best qualified for what position. I would suggest if Debbie wants to meet her, that's great. But, you know, when the recommendation comes forward officially next month or very soon, the board should accept it.
Do we need the board to vote on Tracy?
I don't think we need to. I just want to see, I would like to see something as to when we do vote and when we don't vote. Because like I said, when I did the website, I was voted on at the board level.
I think we had to put that out to bid, Matt. I think that's why.
Okay, so maybe that's all the document says, is that if it's put out to bid and we put things out to bid under these conditions,
Mhm.
because we kind of put the equity coordinator position out to bid as well.
That may have fallen under the same dollar amount. I mean, there is a definite line in the line in sand, dollar wise, as to under this amount, we don't have to put it out to bid, and over this amount we do. And Brian knows that amount. I don't remember.
But that's for products that's over 20,000. But remember, there was a committee developed to do some of this work and investigate who would be the next equity consultant for the Ridgeville Park District. So that's where we're at. That's why the board's involved. There's a recommendation to you for that one. During that process, it's been discovered that Tracy might be able to do a great job as an equity advisor in the neighborhoods. In my opinion, it's mostly Brummel and Elks Park neighborhoods where we need to do a little more outreach and gather more facts. That's where this all kind of sits and has been developed.
Right, and it is a little bit unusual and perhaps even confusing because Kyron, am I saying his name correctly?
Yeah.
When he left, I think the default was we were going to look for someone else for that position. Natalie, correct me if I'm wrong with any of this. We didn't have somebody right away, or I think you might have even talked to somebody who had been one of the original applicants for that, but that didn't work out. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But anyway, when we assessed the budget, we cut that position because Natalie recommended that we could cut it. We then figured out through our interviews with equity consultants, that we were actually really interested in Tracy filling that position and had to basically go backwards and, put it back in. That's why Brian gave us the line item of adjustments of how we fit that back into the budget. So yeah, Jerry.
One of the points of distinction here is may be as simple as when it's a position that you're going to put on payroll, that's a hiring decision by management of the district. When you're going to sign a contract for a consultant or an outside advisor, that's something where you want board approval for that contract.
That works.
But that would require this one as a contract employee to be board approved. And I don't think we need to do that. I would rather see a dollar amount or something else as the cutoff point for that.
I think Matt Rogers is generally correct on that idea, that dollar amount should be what you're focusing on. You should not be undermining the staff and the director. They have to have some leeway to do their jobs. The hiring of the equity consultant was a significant change. It was demanded by the community and the board. It was a political issue to some degree, and the board wanted to weigh in on that and had to weigh in on that. I don't see, it's not up to me, but I don't see this as a political decision in that sense. It's just, hey, this person might be able to fill this role. It's not at a significant dollar amount in the terms of the budget. And the question is, the board has the right to reconsider every decision that Brian and Natalie make if it wants to do so. But it does so, it risks undermining them and their ability to do their jobs. So you need to decide where you want to give leeway and where you don't. And that's up to you. But this seems to be a low-level position when you look at the dollar amount involved.
Thank you, Charlie. That's really helpful. And I think, again, like the back and forth is where some of this gets a little confusing. And I'm with you, Debbie, 100% that things that didn't go so great with Kyron, I think we're all in the same boat of hoping that that doesn't happen again and that we find a person who fills this role, excellently. We don't necessarily need to put our hands in the process as a board to ensure that, and we can cross the bridge when we come to it, if we come to it, if it's problematic the next time around, and maybe assess the role itself and whatever. I do like the idea of hearing from Tracy. I feel a little bit, I just don't think it's ideal that we ask her to come and speak to the board if what you've established with her, correct me if I'm wrong, Natalie, is that she's pretty much already hired and you're nailing out the details of what it is that she's going to do for us.
Yes.
Okay. So, you know, at this point, and I think Debbie already said that she feels comfortable following up with you and or her outside of the meeting. And if moving forward, we want to put a finer point on which positions, you know, but it sounds like we're all kind of in agreement, even though we don't necessarily have it in concrete writing, which positions, you know, but it does have to do with dollar amount, and it also has to do with longevity, right? If they're short-term positions, maybe that's something, and contract positions, maybe that's something that the board is involved in versus, so I don't know. I think we can end discussion here and perhaps, again, put a finer point on it later. Natalie?
I just want to say one quick thing. I just want to reiterate, Tracy is not coming on board to do the same job that we had hired Kyron to do. This is a different thing. I did ask you not to budget for that position again this year because I, again, learned a lot in that experience, did not want to take that on this coming year. It was because we met Tracy in the consultancy interview process and realized she had a lot of value to bring to the table, specifically with me, to really advise me on outreach and what that means and to help connect me in the neighborhood. It's not like I'm going to be giving her tasks and assignments and telling her what to do. She's not reporting to me. She's working with me. So, and she's going to be teaching me and advising me. So that is the difference. It's a very different job than what we had hired Kyron to do last year.
Okay, that's really helpful, Natalie. And I remembered something I wanted to ask for earlier, which is that whenever you do get really clear with her about exactly what she's doing and why and what the goals are and all of that, is that something you guys can put in writing, not just to clarify for yourselves, but also to share with us whenever that does happen?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that would be great. And obviously then we can understand what's happening now and then also use it as a guide for whether we keep doing that into the next budget year or not. Okay, if anyone has anything else to say about that, go ahead. Otherwise, we're now at call of the commissioners. So just go alphabetical as I've done in the past. Commissioner Braun, would you like to share anything? Debbie, I see you're off mute, but I don't hear anything.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I was saying I don't have anything to share.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I've shared enough.
All right. So that is me next, and I don't have anything at the moment. Commissioner Mitchell?
Yes, briefly, I've not followed up with the auditors. I know they reach out to all the commissioners, and I know they can't finish their report until they hear back from all the commissioners. So a friendly reminder to myself and all of us to make sure that gets done.
Is that the fraud questionnaire? Okay, yeah.
Great. And Commissioner Rogers, if you have anything to share?
Nothing tonight.
Okay. Moving into our second and final citizen comment section now. If anyone is here who wants to speak who hasn't yet. And we did get a note from Juan in the chat. I don't think he's here still. Just chiming in, thanking us again for the skate stuff. Alrighty, I don't think there's any other citizen comments. The next thing on our agenda is to go into executive session. So I will entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Mitchell wants to go into executive session.
And a
For the
second?
You should say for the purpose of.
The purpose of employment review of Mr. Cruz and Mr. Sierra.
Rogers seconds.
Great. And Julie, if you would roll call the vote.
Braun,
Yes.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Rogers,
Yes.
and Gaines.
Yes. Thanks, Julie.
Okay.
See you guys in executive.
Alrighty. I just for everyone's reference, I was taking notes, and So we're back in regular session at 9:25. And Debbie's joining us in a second, I think.
She said something as I was leaving, but I don't know what she said.
Oh, okay. I thought I heard Brian start to speak.
Yeah, he said he wasn't joining us, but then Debbie also said something, and I know she went and got an ice pack, so she may be
Okay,
done.
but yeah, we'll see if she shows back up again. Let's go ahead. So if somebody would like to make the motion, and I don't know if we need a separate motion, but for each of them, we probably
Yep.
should do it that way.
Let's do two separate ones.
Yeah.
Do you have it written down, Matt, or would you like me to do it?
It doesn't matter. I haven't written it down, but I can pull it off the top of my head.
Okay.
So
Let's hear it.
I move that in regard to Ruben Sierra, our maintenance foreman, that we increase his salary by $1 an hour and grant 2 extra vacation days to be used in the next year as a bonus for his 25 years of service.
Mitchell seconds.
Oh, okay, great. And I don't think we need any discussion. So I'll roll call the vote on that. Commissioner Mitchell,
Yes.
Commissioner Rogers,
Yes.
and Commissioner Gaines, yes. All right, and then a second motion for Marcos.
So I move in regard to Marcos Cruz that we grant a 4% increase in appreciation for his 23 years of service.
Mitchell seconds.
Great. I'll roll call Commissioner Mitchell,
Yes.
Commissioner Rogers,
Yes.
and Commissioner Gaines, yes. Alrighty, so I think that's everything, and somebody can make a motion to adjourn.
Mitchell
I
move to
move-
adjourn.
Second from Rogers.
9:28. I don't know if I have to do this part because Natalie might be tuning back in at some point, but at 9:28, sorry, Matt Mitchell made the adjourn motion.
Yes.
Rogers seconded. I will roll call vote. Commissioner Mitchell,
Yes.
Commissioner Rogers,
Yes.
and Commissioner Gaines, yes. Okay, good night.
Just for
Yeah.
future reference, you don't have to roll call the adjournment vote.
Oh, is that right? We've been doing it the whole time.
Yeah, we don't do that at the city. We just, because nobody's going to protest that. Nobody's going to argue that we adjourned before we were supposed to or anything. So we've just always done it as a voice vote at the very end.
Okay, just a motion and a second, and then all in favor.
All in favor? Aye.
Okay.
Martha, I took all those notes. I'm sending them to Julie.
Okay, and I took the executive session notes, so I'll send those to Julie or to you, or how does that work?
To me.
As I say, they probably should go to Natalie.
I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not technically supposed to see them, but I will put them in the vault of executive session.
Well,
And I have the recording of it too.
yeah. I mean, I think that we do have to have the minutes. They have to be approved on a certain schedule. I think it's every 6 months, if not sooner. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, if it's not corporate secretary, I don't know who I'd give them to.
Yeah. Just
but-
send them to me.
all right, I will do. Have a good night, everybody.
All right. Thanks.
Good night.
Bye.
Thanks.
Good night.